What is going on, everybody? It is, of course, I, your boy, Matty Milligan, and this is episode number 20 of the Underground Marketing Conspiracy. Ooh. Today, we are talking about how to be a more resourceful entrepreneur. So, I thought first, let's go through each of the different resources that we have. So, number one, which is the most important, is time. Number two is money. And number three is energy. I feel those are the resources that every entrepreneur has and every human being has for that fact. Now, people are always like, okay, I don't have enough money. Money's my main thing. And that's absolutely fine. But if you don't have money, you can use time to overcome that, right? Sweat equity as well, which is your energy. Put those two things in to accumulate money. And I think being resourceful is probably the most important quality an entrepreneur can have, because when you do have that resourcefulness, you can basically just turn copper into gold. And a lot of people make the mistake that they're like, okay, I don't have enough time for things, right? I meet people all the time where they're trying to build their business, and at the same time, they're raising a family and they're working a full time job. So let's say you're the typical person, and it's like, I don't know, maybe you wake up at 7, you commute to work, and you have to be there by 9 o'clock, you work to 5. Sometimes, again, you're going to start earlier, sometimes you're going to end later. But let's say the typical day, you start at 9 and at 5. So you've worked 8 hours, and then you commute, let's say, an hour home, you get home at 6, and then you spend some time with your family. A lot of people make the mistake where it's like, oh, I get home and then I have dinner, and that's fine. Spend that quality time with your family, but what are you doing with that other time, right? What are you doing with that time between, let's say, 10 and 2 a.m., those 4 hours? A lot of people, you could be learning and acquiring more skills and really implementing stuff to work on building your business in those spare hours. Even if you were to do that 5 days per week, just Monday to Friday, that's an additional 20 hours that you could have per week that would allow you to build your business. And even then, it's like you're working, sure, you're working a lot more and you definitely need to watch your energy. But this, I think, is where making sure you're getting 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep per night, and then maybe on Sundays resting in a little bit more, right? Maybe waking up a little bit later, or on Saturday night going to sleep a little bit earlier to recuperate your mind, body, and spirit. But this is a strategy I believe I got actually from Gary Vee. I think I talk about him every day, but in Crush It, he has this strategy where it's, again, you basically work your 9 to 5 and then spend that time at night. This is what I did and what allowed me to leave my 9 to 5. I would work, I would usually wake up pretty early in the morning. When I worked at an office job, what I used to do is I would wake up, and depending on what part of it my life it was, I would either eat before leaving the house, or I would actually eat at work. I would bring a lot of food to work and just consume it in the kitchen there, and that required some time to clean up. But I would wake up, I would either eat or not eat. I would have some water though for sure, then hop on my bike and bike to the gym. Basically go to the gym for 45 minutes to an hour, and then go to work, eat or not eat depending on, again, what cycle I was in, because there were times when I was really into working out, like when I was into weightlifting, pretty heavy, lifting a lot of weight, and I was always hungry, so I was consuming a lot of food. So sometimes I would honestly eat before my workout as well as after. And then again, I would work my 9 to 5 job and then bike home. And what I would do in a lot of cases is I would take a quick nap, like 10, 15 minutes. Those cat naps, you'll feel super exhausted, but you just rest your eyes for 15, 20 minutes and then wake up again. And then sometimes I would have a coffee or not, and then I might eat as well, depending on if I was hungry or not. And then after that, I would basically just work on my business about till about usually midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., depending on how tired I was. And then basically again go to sleep and then do it all over again Monday to Friday. And then Saturday I would work on learning some skills, because when I first started out, I didn't have a mentor. I knew nothing about online marketing whatsoever. I had some sales skills for sure, but I didn't know anything about marketing. And I would just start listening to audiobooks and watching videos about what marketing really was, and I was always so confused in understanding it. And I'd formerly read a lot about psychology. But again, this is where I didn't have any experience. So to get that experience, I had to really invest my time as a resource. And then eventually that allowed me to sell my skills to acquire money. And then allowed me to take some of that money and basically invest in some courses online and then further my knowledge and really just upgrade my own skills and be a lot more self-reliant, which is something that I'll definitely talk about as well. But one of the biggest things people always say is like, "Oh, I don't have money," and it's like, "Okay, well, you probably have time, right?" And they're like, "Oh, I don't have time either," and it's like, "Well, then you're probably not going to succeed." Because I give a lot of free strategies to people where it's like, "All right, number one is you create content consistently over a long period of time, and you build your personal brand, and then after a while, you can eventually sell something to people, and that'll allow you to leave your job." And they're like, "Oh, but like that takes so much time," and it's like, "All right, well, here's another strategy that's also going to require a lot of time where." You optimize your social profiles and you basically just go out. So you optimize your LinkedIn, your Instagram, your YouTube, your Facebook personal profiles, not your business profiles, your personal ones. And then again, with LinkedIn, just going out and connecting with people, looking at what they've posted, basically just engaging with them, engaging in very popular posts. And again, that allows people to click on your profile, visit your profile, see what you do, and then get in touch with you if they're interested. And at the same time, you can connect with people, just ask them how their business is doing. That's absolutely fine. Same thing you can do on Instagram, visit a lot of people's profiles. In some cases, you are going to be dealing with a social manager and not the person themselves, depending on the authority of this person and how much of an expert they are in their specific niche. But in some cases, you might find a business email, you might find a way to get in touch with them, and you might cold email them or even cold call them if you really want to. But a lot of people, again, are afraid of cold calling and cold emailing. So you can just, again, optimize your social profiles and use those to network. But in Facebook, it's the best because, sure, you want to have your business page, but you can set up your personal profile as like this networking tool and then go into all these groups. And right now, in late 2019, the biggest congregations of human beings in the entire world are online, that is, are in these Facebook groups. Like this is where there's some groups where again they might be smaller where there's only like 1,000 or so people, but then there's bigger ones which have several 100,000 people. But you want to find the active communities that where people are actually engaging with, where there's a lot of posting, where there's all sorts of people who are having problems asking questions. Find those and then start providing value, answering people's questions, right? Don't be the dude that goes into these groups and someone asks something and you're like, "Oh, I DM'd you." Like every time I see that, I'm like, "All right, you have no value." Because I have at least some social skills, I like to think. What I like to do is I like to go into groups, I like to answer questions, like a super valuable post, kind of like Quora style, where someone asks a question and you see these people go in and they have this like long-winded answer. I like to go in and have those long-winded answers and also just give them different options and also show them the different prices for stuff. And basically, I'll go in there and again look at the authority and I'll post that authority post. And what happens is people just based on that post will start to send me friend requests or even send me messages just being like, "Wow, you seem to know a lot about this." Like I'm not spamming people, I'm not asking their permission. Again, they're coming to me. But when I do that thing where it's like, "Hey, DM me," like there's no value there. There's no value whatsoever. But by me coming in and doing that, I'm not doing it for the person I'm helping necessarily. Sure, I am doing that to help them, but I'm doing it for all the other watchers in these groups, right? It's the same thing in forums. If you go into a forum, you can start becoming an expert in there and answering questions. And then all of these people who are watching, who never comment, who never like anything, who never engage whatsoever, are just basically watching. They're interested in the topic and they're super passionate about it, but maybe they're just afraid to put themselves out there like that. They're afraid of judgment, I guess, social judgment probably. Those people will see your post and they'll reach out to you. And I've seen this time and time again. And I've used it myself and I've acquired clients using this method. Again, it's a free client acquisition, takes a lot of time. Like a lot of time, right? Several hours of work every single day for a long period of time for anyone to even notice you. And again, that's a free strategy that anyone can utilize. But this is if you don't have money. Because look, if you have money and you're like, hey, I'm already making sales, like, how do I grow my business? It's like, all right, well, like, are you advertising? It's like, yeah, but stuff's not working. It's like, all right, let's look at your advertising strategy. That's again where they want to grow their business. They're like, yeah, I don't have much time, but I do have money. It's like, now is the perfect time then to take that money, that resource, and invest that into that to free up more of your time and start charging more as well for your services. And just energy is one thing where even then, if you don't have like a job, right, you should be hustling, looking for a job, but energy will always be finite, right? Like, you'll always be tired. I wake up every single day super tired. I don't think that's something that's ever going to do that. And sure, it's like, oh, you should sleep more. It's like, dude, I sleep fine. I've never had issues sleeping whatsoever. I'm super lucky that I haven't had any sleeping conditions whatsoever. And I also eat fairly healthfully, to be honest, as well. Not as much recently because it's been my birthday, so I've had a couple of treats, but managing your energy is again something where you're always going to feel tired. There's nothing like that. It's like whenever I meet people, they're like, "Oh, I can't do that because I'm tired." It's like, well, everyone is tired. It's like, and you'll notice too that when I feel tired sometimes, but something needs to get done and there's a deadline, when it's like, okay, I'm probably gonna have to stay up the whole night to just finish this and then send it to the person early in the morning and then basically just only sleep a few hours and maybe wake up a little bit later than I usually do. If it's one of those situations where there's a hard deadline, I'll notice that I'll feel like dead at some points, but then I'll do something, I'll start moving around, and then I'm like tapping into these like energy reserves that I have. And it's funny because you don't know you have these energy reserves, but you keep going. And again, this is something that you don't want to do a lot because sleep deprivation is very bad for you. It's absolutely terrible for your brain. You need sleep. So, and I do recommend again getting like probably 7, 8 hours of sleep per night. That's probably best. I've seen these people with their sleep hacks where they're like, all right, sleep 2 hours and then work a bunch and then sleep 2 hours. Like, no, that's not a good idea, right? Do a quick Google search for circadian rhythm, and that's basically one thing that's going to help you stay healthy, right? Is basically I see a lot of people as well where they work these night shifts, and I think that's just really not good for you. I could never do that. Like I need to kind of wake up with the sun and go to sleep with the sun. So follow the circadian rhythm. And again, I'm not going to explain what that is right now. Do a quick Google search and you'll understand what that is. And that's really just how you maintain your energy, right? Like eat well, get rest, but you're always going to feel tired, right? But when you do feel tired, really just push through and again, tap into those energy resources, but only use that sparingly in those situations when you really need to just do an extremely hard push, right? And honestly, most people have a lot more energy that they're just not utilizing every single day, and they think that they're tired. A lot of cases too, people are like, "Oh, I don't work out because I'm tired." And it's like, really, do you not work out because you're tired, or are you tired because you aren't working out? So think about that as well. If you're not working out, if you're not exercising, lifting weights, doing any sort of calisthenics, you should probably be doing that. Same thing if you're not eating well, that's definitely going to affect your energy and just your sleep overall. Overall. Blah. Wow. I think today was more about self-help topics, but and then just some basic other things about being resourceful. Having that initiative too is a huge component, which I'll talk about more another day, but if you can ever find an employee, or even if you yourself are an employee, being resourceful when other people run into problems, but you're like, okay, like, how can I overcome this, right? Taking that initiative and just coming up with a solution, the people that you work with are going to be very appreciative of that, whether that's your boss, your employer, or your coworkers, or again, maybe you are the boss and you have employees. Coming up with solutions to problems and taking the initiative, and instead of just being like, oh, with this problem, like, how do we solve it? That is a big factor, right? And Ayn Rand talks about this in Atlas Shrugged, right? The looters versus, what are they called? The producers. And that's one of the points of the looters and producers, where looters are always like looking for problems and always creating problems, and producers are the ones who actually solve the problems. So I would, like I said, being resourceful is something where if you have no money, then you're going to need to figure out a way to free up some of your time. If you're doing a million things where you're maybe in like a beer hockey league and you're playing hockey a couple of times per week, and then at the same time you're going out drinking, and then you have all these favorite shows, and you have all sorts of responsibilities. Like, it's very hard to succeed because you're going to be time poor. So even then, drop a few of those activities. Maybe there's one that you want to do per week that, again, just keeps you happy and that you really like doing, right? Maybe that is hockey and you do it once per week for an hour or two. But really start planning your time if you are money strapped, because you're going to have to free up your time in order to make more money, because you're probably going to have to spend that time either networking or cold calling or cold emailing or building up your social profiles, or in fact just learning skills to actually acquire more wealth. That's ideally what you're going to have to do at first, right? And again, if you want to get money, you're just going to have to invest your time and your energy, which are your other two resources. And one thing too is that the way you look at money is also one thing, because I think this was Robert Kiyosaki. He has this saying where it's like, when poor people see something they want, they're like, oh, I can't afford that because it's too high ticket. But rich people, they see something and there's a high ticket and they're like, okay, like, how can I afford that? So kind of changing that perspective on how you look at money. And again, this takes some time. It's not going to be just like a light switch where it's going to change right away. It's something where you have to start thinking about that, right? And looking at things with a different perspective. If it's something that you really want, then you have to use your resources and be resourceful and figure out how you can actually get that, which is what rich people do, right? Even if they can't afford it, but they know it's going to help them become a better person, they're willing to invest that money and really just find out how they can acquire that money to actually pay for that thing that they really deeply want on a deep level. And yeah, I think that's all we want to talk about for today with regards to how to be a more resourceful entrepreneur. If you did enjoy today's episode, consider subscribing, consider viewing and listening to some other episodes of your new favorite show and podcast, The Underground Marketing Conspiracy. I am, of course, your boy, Matty Milligan, and I will see you next time. Ooh.